things that we're going to do, Donnie, thank you very, very much. Very compelling comments. One of the things we're going to do is have people like Donnie who are going to be available to this group to advise us and just give us some practical information. Let me just open up for questions. I know it's Monday morning, guys.
You mentioned at the beginning that kind of what kicked this off was safety. What would the group find would be the top thing to do to keep kids safe, or was there anything that kind of emerged on that front?
Well, I will tell you that there's, and just kind of put this in perspective, on any given day we have approximately 12,000 kids in foster care. Some days we have 24,000 kids in foster care. And if the snapshot is 12,000, what that means is many more than that will be in foster care during a 12-month period of time. A snapshot would be 12,000. There was a real, to me, the most fascinating and frightening thing was this. As we had these discussions, we had usually on the panel people who were in what I would call the establishment. People who are working hard, but they're, head up children's services or a juvenile court judge. And those people would be on the panel. Out in the audience, we would have people who just showed up. And they were foster parents many times. And some of the dialogue was fascinating. And it was clear there was this great chasm between the way people who are working in the system, between the way they look at the system and how it's working, which is basically, hey, it's tough, we're doing a good job, by and large, we know their problems, etc., versus people who were foster parents who showed up, and some former foster children who showed up, who would talk about individual cases where, we had one foster mother who stood up and she said, I've cared for 15 foster kids, I love them all. Let me tell you about some of them. And she'd talk about, I had this child from the time it was 6 days old, I raised it, I was the only mom that this child knew, there was 4. And then all of a sudden, the crack-addicted mom, somebody thought the crack-addicted mom was fixed, was okay, and so they jerked the kid out of my house. I wanted to adopt the kid. And had others tell similar stories that even more tragically, where the child was put back with the father, put back with the mother, and the child ends up being killed. So when you talk about safety, there was clearly a different point of view. I will share with you mine, and I think it was the consensus of at least most of the audience and many of the people on the panel, but not all the people on the panel. And that is simply this. I think we've got to focus on the kids. And I think too often we're treating kids like chattel and we're like property. And we are not concerned as much as we should be about the best interest of the child. I think at some point, these kids have a right to grow up with what every child should have, is that some permanency in their life, with some love in their life, with a mom and a dad, or a mom or a dad who's going to care for them. And they know that's who they're going to be with. What we have too often is kids who languish in foster care, who go back and forth between different foster homes, or go between a foster home and their natural home time and time again. And quite frankly, I just think at some point we need to say to the crack-addicted mom or to the father who can't control his anger, hey, we'll pray for you, we hope you get your act together, we'll try to help you, but this little kid's got to grow up. And this kid can't wait for you to get your act together. That we can't just destroy this child's life waiting for you to get the treatment that you need, or waiting for you to change, or waiting for you to deal with your anger. And at some point, we just have to say enough is enough. And what happens is, we too often as a society don't say that. We don't have the guts to say that. And what happens is, these kids are the victims. And they end up, while we wait for these so-called parents, who are parents in biologically, but parents in name only, and we wait for them to get their act together. And we wait, and we have a child who now is 18, who's really never had a permanent home, or not much of a permanent home, who now is aged out of foster care, and has been denied the opportunity to be adopted. These kids need to be adopted. So that's, I think that was a consensus with a lot of, not everybody, but it's certainly what I believe, and it's what a lot of people, I think, who were there believe.
What you just said, you put into law, not Ohio law, national law years ago. So are you saying that child care agencies or whoever's in charge in Ohio is not obeying the thrust of the federal law, which says that the kid comes first, not unification of the family?
Well, what the law says is, in the law that I wrote, and just to back up a little bit, and Bill, because Bill and I have been around a while, we both remember this, but for those of you who don't, I introduced this bill because I was talking to a lot of people in social service agencies, and I kept complaining. I said, why, this is back when I was in U.S. Senator, why are these kids being put back in abusive homes? And the answer I got was, well, that's the federal law. And I said, well, that can't be the federal law. And so I looked it up, and we started trying to figure it out. And we found that before I ever went to the U.S. House of Representatives, this is back about 1980, I think, maybe a little before that, Congress passed a very well-intended law, and it was family reunification. It basically says, in layman's terms, that when you take a child away from their parents, and society does that you have to make reasonable efforts, and that's the key word, reasonable efforts to reunite that child with his or his family. There is nothing wrong with that, but I felt at the time that that was being misunderstood, and that reasonable efforts were becoming unreasonable efforts, and that we were doing things that were just crazy, and that made no sense, and we were putting kids back in dangerous homes. So I wrote the law, and I introduced, I'll never forget, I held a press conference in Washington in my office, and I said, we're going to change that, and we're going to require that the safety of the child must be paramount. And the next day, in papers across the state, I was vilified by people in social service work who said I was trying to do away with family reunification. I was not. I was simply trying to bring some sanity to it. We passed our law, as Bill said, signed into law by President Clinton, and it said that the safety of the child, family reunification, still kept that, but said then the safety of the child would have to be paramount. That is in the law today. The answer is yes, Bill. I think sometimes people forget the most important thing, and that is the child. But it's not just questions of worrying about the safety of the child, that physically. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's other things as well. But I think we have to focus more on the children, particularly when we have parents who have been abusive and who have demonstrated that they're not going to be able to take care of these kids. So I think we've gotten away from it. I think we've made some progress, but I think we have a long way to go.
Well, then is there something this group needs, I mean, if it's basically, I know there's...
I'm going to leave that up to them. I think part of this is cultural.
Attorney General, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to piggyback on what you were just about to say, I'm curious to see if this group, like this young man, I know a lot of them, they're great people. As they further develop, will they be looking at diversity of themselves, of that group, to mirror possibly the demographics of the kids who are in foster care?
This is not let me make this very clear. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about that. This is just some of the members. We are still have invitations out to some people, and we're not done. So this is not a completed group. But I don't know if I answered your question, Bill.
Is it just a matter of, I mean, if it's, can't you just say, hey, folks, obey the federal mandate? You're not.
Well, I don't think it's that simple, and I think that I want to make sure I say this because I believe it. People in child welfare system are good people. They're trying. They face very difficult choices. And we should not minimize the disruption to a child when that child is taken away from his natural parents. And even children who are in tough situations, generally, I'm told, do not want to be taken away from their parents. So you have to be very, very careful how we do it, and we don't want to overgeneralize about it. What I do believe is that it's a cultural problem where we, and I say cultural, not necessarily in society, but I think in the Children's Service Agency, cultural problem where we're not focused enough on these kids, and we have to be willing at some point, once the evidence is in, to say enough is enough, and we're going to sever the relationship. It's not just a question of taking the child out of the home. I think that social service agencies are very sensitive to trying to do that. I think the real problem is that we don't have the guts as a society to say to those parents who have demonstrated time and time again they cannot take care of this child, they will be abusive to this child. We don't have the guts to say enough is enough. We don't have the guts and the gumption to say we're going to sever that relationship permanently. Everyone chokes on that, and I understand why they do, but at some point you got to think about the kid. That's all. Mary?